I'm Joshua Swanson with Worship Leader, and I'm here with the co-founder of Planning Center, Aaron Stewart. Thanks for hanging with us and chatting with us. So we've got a bunch of questions about your ministry, your business tree. Let's call it business tree.
Business tree. I love that.
Yeah. And but we also asked some questions or surveyed our audience, of course, of worship leaders. And so we got that cool video, but then I've got some other questions from some worship leaders. So this one came in. So PCO's become the go-to church worship service and volunteer planning software. So what are you planning to offer in the days ahead? So that seems to be a consistent question. Everybody's wondering, like, what's next for Planning Center?
Yeah.
So what's next?
Well, technology changes really fast. And so we've not tried to forecast too far out into the future. We like to build one thing at a time, release that to people and see what they say and see, does that change what they want next? We just, we've been working for a little while and we released a new task management system in Planning Center. And so it's pretty simple, the first version of it. Rather than us decide what people are going to want next, let's release a really simple version of that and let's see what feedback comes in. And the feedback is a little bit different than we were expecting it to be. And so it was like, oh, well, good. I'm glad we got this feedback because now we know we're going to build this thing next. That we're probably going to build a little bit later this year, but we're going to prioritize that instead. So we don't know too far out, but I know at least the next 6 months or so. And one of the big things that we're working on right now are more ways for team members and for the church to just be in communication with each other. Yeah. There's so much of that people want to do texting, but texting is kind of hard and true texting from a software actually costs money. And so we're building a whole chat system into Planning Center services so that you'll be able to just chat back and forth and control all that kind of thing. So we're hoping to release a first version of that, hopefully by the end of this year.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I read a lot of the feedback, and that was a lot of the comments. Like, hey, we want more tools to communicate within the app, within the platform, that both internally, but then also communicate within the platform that sends messages out. Yeah. So that seems to be a consistent request. So way to go. And I'm also very impressed. Another thing that I noticed in reading the reviews of Planning Center is how often people mention that they asked for a feature and you built it.
Yeah.
So is that a core value, or how did you come to that? Because there's a lot of software companies where you're just kind of banging your head up against the wall like, man, why don't they just do this one feature? And you see 500 people have said, please build me this one thing, and nothing. So is that intentional, or is that just, you just happen to have the right roadmap, or where does that come from?
It's very intentional. From the beginning, our communication with our customers has been just integral to how we choose to build the next thing. We're not, even though it sort of started as me and Jeff and a few of us building things for our own church, as soon as we decided to make this into a product, it was this is we're building it for people. So what do you tell us what you want to do? Now, that job can sometimes be hard because sometimes the exact thing that people ask for is not what they really want. And so they ask for the only thing they can sort of think of. And we have to take that feedback and say, okay, well, they said this, but what they really want is this. And how do we make this thing in a way that is going to be beneficial to all churches? And now with our support team that we have, they're like Planning Center superpower because they are just in contact. They're answering thousands of tickets a day of people and hearing directly from our customers and helping the product managers figure out, okay, what is the next thing that is going to help churches really be more effective? So listening to them is just has been important from day one.
So we've just identified Planning Center has a superpower. So are you willing to share that superpower with others? I'm just asking it for a friend.
Absolutely.
Maybe we could use your customer support for us. It's so fantastic.
It's been very important for us for when people ask us questions, for them to get great response and for them to get it quickly. Yeah. And so our sort of business promise is that you get your questions answered in 1 business hour or less. So we will continue to staff our support team big enough so that you can always get your question answered in 1 hour. Wow. And that's not something people usually come to expect, but people are, we understand that especially worship leaders, you're doing something at the last minute here. You're you don't have time to wait for an answer. So we've got tons of videos and documentation you can search for yourself, but sometimes you need to know how to specifically do it for you're the only one in the world that does this thing just like this. How do I do it and make it work for me? And our support team is going to answer that question for you.
Oh, that's fantastic. All right, another question from one of our worship leaders out there. So would you consider adding tools to help churches with online worship team members, applications, and auditions? So that seems to be something that is really important to folks. Obviously, it's a delicate subject when you're auditioning someone, and in the church, Jesus doesn't look at people and go, "You're better than you." He sees everyone as equal.
Yes, but he gives us all individual skills, and figuring out where we should best use those skills is something. I shouldn't be the one preaching on Sunday, so evaluate me for those skills. So not only would we build those, we already have built a lot of stuff. Cool. And so I love that question because Planning Center makes a lot of different software. Yeah. And so the main thing that worship leaders know is Planning Center Services. It's the green one that you use for your music and for the worship stuff. Planning Center also can be, if you want, your whole church management system. And in that, the center of Planning Center is our product that's called Planning Center People. Now, whether worship leaders know it or not, by using the worship services aspect of it, all your people are getting synced to this database in the background, whether you use it or not. And that database and features for the database are actually totally free. And so you don't even have to commit to we want to use Planning Center for our whole church thing. You don't have to say that to even take advantage of some of those features. So for instance, Planning Center People, which is free, has the ability to make forms for people to sign up for. So you can make a form that's like, are you interested in volunteering at the church?
Yeah.
And that can be you can say, put in your name, your phone number, whatever. And then where are you interested in volunteering? And there can be checkboxes like worship ministry, children's ministry, whatever. And then you can set up that form so that if they check the box that says, I'm interested in worship ministry, it then sends them to a whole nother feature that is free called workflows. And a workflow, you can make a workflow for audition workflow.
Yeah.
So when someone checks that box on the form, it puts them in the workflow. And step one is email that person with information about when our next auditions are going to be, or whatever it is.
Built-in automation that just basically you build it once, you set it up once, and forevermore, anytime you have need for an audition or need for a volunteer to fill out a form or answer questions, it just does it automatically.
And it's going to walk them through however many steps. So your steps could be email them, then tell them when the dates are, then evaluate, then send them a follow-up email, then add them to a team. And all that stuff, you can have different people responsible for each one. And all of that is free if you just know where to look for it.
I love it. Okay, well, that concludes the questions from the audience section of this very intense interview that we're doing.
I'm sweating.
Yes. So I know that you mentioned Jeff. Obviously, you guys built this together. It's always great to just hear from the founders the initial story. I think it's really special that you guys were like, hey, we're in need of this. So what is the story of Planning Center? You're in a garage somewhere in Silicon Valley. No. Okay. What was the story?
It was in California, not in a garage, in a church office.
Silicon South?
Yeah.
South.
In a church office in the Palm Springs area of Southern California. I was the music pastor at the church there, one of, and Jeff was doing graphics and web stuff. And so it was is still a big church. And so there were different ministries. So Jeff was helping sort of the one of the coordinators put the order of service together, and he was always a computer programmer kind of person. And so he was building software to help figure out, okay, if these things take this amount of time, then this other venue that has to sync up with it, it was a whole bunch of timing stuff in the order of service. I was always super computery as well. That's a word.
Computery.
Computery.
Write that down, everybody.
Yes.
Super computery.
It's my business tree.
That's it.
And so this was in 2004 and 2005. So when I started at this church, I walked in and I saw these manila folders on the wall, and I was like, what are these? They're like, oh, these are the music packets, and we burn CDs and we print out the music. I'm like, okay. And then someone drives them to people's houses. And I was like, I will not be doing that. And so part of this was okay, well, we need to get the music to people ahead of time. And online software was barely a thing. So the first version, for me at least, was I was making a custom website every week and just uploading my chord charts to that. And so the people would get their music, but then I would have to do the same thing. Even if it was the same songs, I would have to do it over again. So I was doing that. And I had also made some databases that were in Microsoft Access that was like tracking who has sung the songs, how often. So I'd be like, has this person sung the song before?
I think they sunset that. I don't even think Microsoft Access is around anymore.
It probably is not around anymore. I have no idea. So anyway, Jeff and I got together and I was like, okay, well, what if this stuff that I'm doing to organize the music team and the things that you're putting in for the order of service, what if that was all just software? So he started building it as a Windows app because that's what he was certified for. But then I got a new job. And my job was going to move me to a different church in Las Vegas, which is the last place on earth I ever thought that I would move. But that's where the Lord called me. And so when I moved there, they were a Mac church and my old church was PC. And right at this time, it was like, well, there's this new web technology that I think you can build websites like that are like an application. So Jeff transitioned from Windows to web. And so I moved to Vegas and we sort of worked remotely to sort of figure out what the software should be. And he would program it all. And then I would get it and I'd be like, this works. And so my church was the first one to start using it in Vegas. And so we used it for the first 5 or 6 months. And then I had attended Saddleback's Purpose-Driven Worship Conference for a couple of years. And I was like, you know what? We should try to get a booth there and start to sell it to people. And so we got a booth there in 2006 on June 27th is when that conference launched. And so we took out a loan and just had the ugliest booth that you've ever seen. It was like these bright yellow tablecloths we borrowed from a catering ministry. And like, it was something. It was something for your eyes to behold. But it really connected with people because this didn't really exist at the time. And so when we launched it there for the next 6 months, word of mouth spread. And then in January of 2007, Jeff took out an ad with Worship Leader Magazine. Actually, you might have heard of them. We took out an ad there, and that advertisement is what basically catapulted us. And we've been growing basically every single month since then, other than a few months in the middle of a global pandemic.
That's fantastic. Well, now you just inspired a new Twitter poll we have to put out.
Okay.
Mac churches versus PC churches. I need to know this.
Yes.
Is this a thing? Are there like 90% Macs, 10% PCs? Is it 50-50?
That's a good question.
All right. That coming soon to worshipleader.com. That's a really great story. I love that it came from a place of filling a need that you had and then using your skills, and you really hit at the right time when that transition from desktop software to the cloud. And, that's really fantastic. Okay, cool. So how does Planning Center continue to innovate and serve churches? So we mentioned kind of earlier that you do a lot of listening. Mm-hmm. What else are you doing to ensure that outside of listening, what else are you doing to ensure that you're innovating and really serving the needs today of the church?
So much of this, I think, comes down to the people that we hire. And so when we're hiring support agents, for instance, and people that are going to be helping customers, many of them have been the planning center person at their church. So they come into the company with such knowledge and heart even for how to help. And so our product and support teams talk a lot together to sort of figure that kind of thing out. But from the actually planning the features that we're going to do, our product managers and even our development teams, we are looking for people that just love technology and that are going to be looking at the new things and that are inspired. So when we hire a product manager, one of our questions is like, what's your favorite app that you've discovered recently and why? Like, I'm looking for people that are looking for like the most efficient way to be organized and that just like technology, because so many of the people that we're building products for, they don't like technology.
Right.
They don't understand it. They don't want to get it, but they want to be organized and they want to be more efficient.
They just want it to work.
They just want it to work.
Yeah.
So our job is to I want people that are using other software. I want to be constantly inspired by the products that I use, because when I'm using something that helps us manage our own stuff, it makes me want to make something beautiful for our people. And it helps me see, ooh, this technology is new. How can we do something like this that's going to empower our churches? Because as we saw, like in the pandemic, all of a sudden being digital was not an option.
Right.
That was already happening. Like the world is moving in that direction. And so if you aren't connected online, eventually that's going to be a big problem. And it was in that pandemic. And now it's softened back again. But those are the kind of things that like we need to make sure that the church, like as the culture, like as people just have this expectation of, we can be connected in all these ways, that we're making that really easy for the church. And so making sure that we hire people that are thinking about that, and us just always being on the lookout and making little changes and responding to what the customers say about those things is how we do that.
That's great. So you mentioned your people, and it kind of like you're like kind of segueing almost into company culture and core values. So let's talk about some of that. So what are the core values or mission statement of Planning Center?
We have 5 core values. I love it. Took us about 9 months to define these. It was a long process. And so I'll see if I can do this kind of briefly. Okay. So the first one is engage with humility.
Okay.
We want people to be humble, but not use that as an excuse to just like shrink into the background, but to say, my job is to speak up. Like, we don't want you to shrink in. We want you to speak up for what you believe in, but in a humble manner, because that's how we're going to work together the best. The second one is invest in the team. Planning Center is not a company of just like individual rock stars that are just doing their best work. We are people that work better when we work as a team, and when the product team and the support team collaborate with the marketing team and our operations team. So investing in that team is very important to us. Focus on customer impact is one of them. When we're doing a project, how is this going to affect the customer? Does this make things better for them? That seems kind of obvious, but it can be easy when you hire people that are just interested in cool technology. Yeah. It can be easy to be like, ooh, let's build this thing just because it's cool. And it's like, yeah, but is it cool for the customer, or is it cool for you? So focusing on customer impact, do our best work. And this is, a lot of places say like, oh, strive for excellence or something like that. For us, this is, we want to be somewhere where we are constantly inspired because the person I'm working with is just doing amazing work. And that makes me want to be better at my job as well. So do our best work. And then the last one maybe takes a little more explanation, but I've actually kind of talked about it a lot already. And that is, think holistically, work iteratively. And what that means is we want to be thinking about the big picture, but I'm not having some giant thing that's going to take me a year to do. I'm going to think about the big picture and kind of know where I'm going, but I'm going to take little steps to get there. And those little steps are the things that's like, build a really simple task manager and get that out to our customers, because a simple task manager is better than no task manager.
Right.
And what's going to happen is customers are going to be like, this is pretty simple. Why can't it do this? And that can make us feel like, well, do they think that we didn't think it was going to need anything else? No, we know it's going to need more, but we want to know from you first, like, what is it going to take? What do most people want? So that helps us take iterative steps to that holistic goal.
That's great. Wow. That's like a lesson in business management right there. And also that last one reminds me of Mark Zuckerberg's launch, iterate, launch, iterate, launch, iterate, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Software is going very fast. And to your point, like, hey, get an MVP, get it out there, get some feedback, get a 2.0, get a 3.0, and keep going. Mm-hmm. I love it. Okay, so let's talk more about that idea of leadership and business management. So what is the company culture like then? So we've heard about the core values. What are you most proud of in terms of the company culture specifically, that you feel like, hey, we've really done that well?
I think there's kind of two things. One is a work-life balance. So we want people to love their job and to be great at their job. But we want you to clock out at 5:00. Like, we want you to go home. So many software companies, startups, back when we were new or whatever, are just like, go full out all the time. You're working on weekends, you're working on nights and all that kind of stuff. And for us, we want to, Jeff has led out on this so much of like, we want to build a place that we want to work forever. I mean, it's like the golden rule, do unto others as you would have do unto you. And so build the company that you would want to get a job at. And so letting people focus and be as good as they possibly can, and then spend time with their family, spend time at their church, spend time volunteering, do all that kind of stuff. So that's the first thing. And I think the second thing for me, instilling a sense of ownership in people. I don't just work for this company. Like, this is my company. I want every developer, every designer, every support agent to understand why we're doing this thing, who we're building it for, how it impacts them, so that when they're building those things, it's like, I'm not just checking tasks off a task list. Like, I am contributing to this vision as a whole. And that helps me like engage in a different way, that it's like, oh, you know what? I bet you if we did this, if I suggested this one little change, it would be a little bit better. And I'm like, yes. Like as the person that's like kind of designing the wireframe of kind of what this is going to be, I need every person working on this thing to be invested in the outcome, because if they are contributing their ideas, the end product is going to be so much better than if we're just relying all on my ideas. Planning Center would be nothing if it was just what me and Jeff were thinking of. It takes the whole team feeling like they have ownership of that and adding value to that along the way.
That's a wonderful example of what culture really is, right? Culture really pushes the business forward because it's like everyone is relying on one another.
Yes.
There's this community aspect to the company. That's fantastic. So some of the best leadership tips that you could share with our audience, worship leaders obviously are leading teams, and you have been leading a team and leading a company for a long time. So what along the way have you learned that you can pass on in terms of knowledge, leadership tips, things like that?
Yeah. Leadership tips. A huge one that overlaps with business and with worship leading is stop to think about why and explain why. People so often want to know why. Like, so in the church world, this is the kind of thing I would see. So I mentioned I worked at a church in Las Vegas. It was at the time the biggest church there. It was real flashy. It was a Vegas kind of church. They would host people that would come in and they would like see all these things and be like, oh man, look at all these people that come to this church. We need to do that. I'm like, no, don't do this. This is for our community here. Like this kind of thing works in Vegas. Figure out like why, like we're doing this thing to reach out to our community. Right. That's why. So don't say, I'm just going to do that thing. Figure out why we're doing that thing and then translate it for you. And so like, okay, well, our community is different. How do we reach out to our community? From a business perspective, we make a lot of decisions of like what we're going to do. And and this has gotten us into trouble actually a lot over the years, because as our company has grown, when there were 4 people sitting around a desk, I didn't need to explain why. Sure. We were working on everything so closely together. We just all knew why. Yeah. Now, as of today, there are 145 employees at Planning Center. I talk to some of those people one time a year. And so being able to communicate why we're doing this thing in a clear way helps everyone sort of like understand that vision and understand like, is that something that we should be doing rather than just jump into the solution? Yeah. At one of my church jobs, we got a new senior pastor as I was already doing stuff. And he came in and in our like service review, he would say, well, I noticed you only did 1 hymn in that service. Why did you only do 1 hymn? I'm like, oh, that's just how we've always done it. We're trying to balance this and that. Okay. And I would say, do you want me to do more? Is that something valuable? Nope. Just want to know why. But he would ask me that question like every single week. And I'm like, okay, you obviously are not happy with what's going on here. Like, yeah. I need to know, like, what is your philosophy of worship? Like, why are we worshiping? Is my job as a worship leader, like, what is the vision of the senior pastor and does it align with mine? Is my job to be a place that is attractive to new people? Like, you come in and it's like, oh, this music is great. I want to come back to this church because that. Yeah. Is my goal to have more people engaged in worship. Like, there's probably a balance of both of those things that you want to have happen. Doesn't have to be one or the other, but like thinking about what are you holding me accountable for as a worship leader? What is your goal with this thing? Because if it is to see more hands raised in worship and more people singing, I'm going to probably pick different songs than if it is, no, I want young families to be attracted to the worship and get that in so that then they're going to come to small group. And that's where our church is invested in small group ministry. Like there's a lot of different ways you can do that. So what are you wanting me to do? Why? And communicate that. That helps me do my job in a better way. And us just be on the same page.
Great. That's fantastic. I think so often we get caught up in the day-to-day, the grind, the next big task that we've been assigned, and we miss that opportunity to stop and understand the why for ourselves and then communicate that well to our teams. Because when we do that, I think people are much more motivated to help you achieve the goal. So very wise. Love that feedback. What is, last one on leadership. So how do you motivate and inspire your team?
This is a great question. almost unfair for me to answer this because I think as I've been working with more product managers, we have, I don't know, 8, 9, or 10 of them now. We've sort of learned that everyone has like different skills. And one of I'm an excited person. Like I am excited about the next thing. And I think excitement is infectious. And so for me, this has just been something that I have not had to think about very much because when I know what the next thing we're going to do, I'm just excited to do it. And so when I talk to my team about it, I can't help but communicate that excitement to people. And so I do think being motivated and figuring out how to express your internal motivation for people and like connect them with the why.
Yeah.
Like, and connect them with those stories. I think that is really important. Now, there is another side of that, though. There are people that like, they don't express their emotion outwardly as much. And it's like, okay, I'm excited about this, but for different reasons that for whatever reason doesn't motivate people. And so I think part of being a leader is figuring out how you do it. And the way you do it is not going to be the same as me. Right. But I think figuring out who your team members are and like, so one of the questions we get at planning, so I'm going to pivot just a little bit, is how do you get people to respond to their scheduling requests? Why can my people just not click that accept and decline button? Well, there's a lot of reasons, but I think so much of this goes down to like, have you had a simple conversation with your people that is explaining to them how this helps you, how clicking accept and decline contributes to the greater mission of the church, which hopefully is contributing to individual lives changed by, discipleship or by salvation or whatever. Yes. Like connect, that's not easy to do. People are not going to connect clicking accept with someone becoming a Christian. That is part of your job as the worship leader of like, when you click accept, that helps me have more time in my job to actually focus on thinking about how I'm going to pick songs that do this and contribute in other ministries. But if I'm spending all my time calling people on the phone and not knowing who's actually going to be available to serve, then I don't have time to focus on changing lives and reaching people for Christ because I'm doing so much administrative work. So if you can connect that line all the way through, have those conversations with people, those are the kind of things, that's the reason why they are volunteering to serve. Help them see how what they're doing is affecting people.
You basically just helped about 50,000 of our worship leaders figure out how to convince people to hit accept or decline. We're just going to use that little clip and they're going to play that for their church volunteers and say, this is why it's so important that you let me know if you're available this week to serve or not. Hit the button. Yeah, hit the button.
Yes, it seems like this is dumb. I don't need to do this, but it can make such a big difference.
That's great. Another feature that you've launched, Music Stand, seems to be really popular. You created it as a way to serve worship leaders and worship teams specifically, I'm assuming?
So if you're putting all of your music in Planning Center to organize it and to give to your people to rehearse, what you can do is download the Music Stand app, which is best on a tablet, so an iPad or an Android tablet. And that lets you log in to your account. And then it says, oh, here's this week's service. And it launches in a customized view. So it's all the same stuff. You don't have to do any extra planning. It just opens that up and it makes it so that whatever music you have, whether sheet music or chord charts, whatever it is as PDF files, it gets put in there so that you can just swipe from song to song, or you can use a wireless Bluetooth foot pedal. If you want to be hands-free, you can just tap your foot and it changes the pages. Actually, you can even link multiple devices so that when I turn my pages, it just automatically turns anybody else's pages who wants to be turned.
So that's like one page turner. Like, remember the piano player had the page turner?
Where I'm sitting is like,
next. Yeah.
Yes, your hand is in my way. Yes, so it's that exact kind of thing. And then also you're able to take notes on it. And so what I love about this is I take notes the first time we're going to do that song. And then when we do that song 2 weeks later, a month later, a year later, it just comes up again with all of my notes. And I don't have to like save a piece of paper. Well, so if I can save notes, why can't I share my notes? So if you are playing piano next week, you can be like, well, I don't want to take my own notes. Did Aaron take notes on this? You can just say, oh, there's Aaron's notes, import them to mine. So you can share your notes with other people. If you have your audio files on there, it allows you to listen to those. This is how I practice my stuff every week. So I sit down at my keyboard and I open Music Stand. I launch the audio player and it's I can scrub through the player at the bottom while I'm taking notes on the music right there. I'm like, oh, what was that? And I back up. Cool. I'm going to highlight that part because that's where I'm going to sing a harmony part or whatever. And so having all that, sharing those notes with your people and turning those pages, it just makes rehearsing or playing in the service so much easier.
I was going to ask too, I saw a video of you playing, I want to say it was your core values to a Beatles song.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah.
Or do you have any confessions about the Beatles maybe?
I would love to talk about that because my whole life was building up to music. I got a degree in music. I was a music pastor at a couple of churches and then pivot. I'm doing software for a living. And so every year right now in July, Planning Center gets together for this yearly celebration of let's celebrate all the things we did in the last year. And so during COVID, we had to shut down that celebration and we did it on Zoom. Not quite as exciting.
Kind of lame, yeah.
Yeah, kind of lame.
Fun.
So we were well, let's make this presentation more exciting. So I'm so we assigned different parts of the celebration to different people. And I got assigned to talking about a couple of features. And I'm well, I'm going to write a song for this instead. So I wrote and recorded a song with help from our product managers. And then we played this video of this thing. Well, it went over really, really well. And so the next year when we got back in person, it was well, let's translate that to a live thing. Now, as I mentioned, so many of our support agents and developers, designers, everybody have been on worship teams in the past. So it's actually crazy how many extremely talented people we have working at Planning Center designing and supporting software. So we do this.
Musicians need a gig,
Exactly.
A day job, some of them. That's cool. I get it.
So the first year The Greatest Showman had just come out.
Oh, yeah.
So
you hired Hugh Jackman.
We hired Hugh Jackman. Yes. So we did parodies of all the songs from The Greatest Showman, but talking about features that we had done in Planning Center.
Nice.
And it was this 9-minute thing. And we did all this. And then the next year we did a 90s medley. And so then this last year, this is a long setup. This last year, it was okay, every year it gets bigger and bigger. We had just defined these core values. And so we're well, let's not just celebrate the features we did. This was a big part of last year. So we were okay, and there's a new theme every year. So this year, our theme was heroes. And so, which actually has nothing to do with the Beatles. But when we were defining the core values, they're heroes to a lot of people. Yeah. And so we were okay, we got 5 new core values. We're going to arrange this into a medley. And one of our values is engage with humility. And so I was brainstorming with our creative team and we're well, whatever. And I'm hey, dude, just go away. And I was and everyone would started laughing. It was because instead of attitude, it's tude or whatever. And so we all thought it was funny. And so I was well, what if we do that? What if this is a Beatles medley? So it all started with just a joke that we threw out. So then we did a 6-minute medley of Beatles songs that talks about all of those core values. And we performed it live with a live band consisting of Planning Center people and vocalists and everything. And we did a separate Disney medley on our features. And it was a giant thing.
To be fair, it made me want to work at Planning Center, but I'm just saying, that looked like a lot of fun.
It was so fun.
Can we circle back to the 90s and just say, what is up with the 90s? Why was the 90s so awesome for music?
It was pretty good. It was pretty epic. I don't know.
Come on, Dire Straits fans out there? Anybody? No? Okay. All right. Well, last question about Planning Center in terms of just big picture. What are you excited about? What's coming down the pike that you're really excited about?
I mentioned one of them already. I think the thing I'm most excited about is our building chat features into Planning Center. I know. So we have an app called the Church Center app, and this is for churches that use Planning Center for more than just their worship services. Members can log in and online give in there. They can register for events. They can interact with their small groups. And part of small group stuff that is in there is there's been a small group chat feature in there. And seeing how successful it's been to allow small group members to chat with each other, we're let's expand that so that it's not just chatting with your group. You can chat with your small group. You can chat with your services team. You can chat with the whole team or just the members of the team that are scheduled for this particular week. being able to communicate more and honestly bring more features of Planning Center together. So this task management thing, right now it's simple, but what if tasks can be connected to other things in Planning Center? What if using Planning Center on the back end is just powering all the things in your church? So connecting all these different things, tasks and chat and just managing all those things together. I think there's just such an exciting world of what people tell us is, man, it's just hard when we're using 5 different software products for all these different things. And if they could just all be connected with each other, it would make things so much easier for us. And that's the type of world that we're trying to build towards.
That's fantastic. Well, Aaron Stewart, co-founder of Planning Center, thanks for chatting with us, man.
You're welcome.
That was fun.
Yeah.